The excavation site on Titan 9 was a wasteland of rust-colored soil and ancient stone, a forgotten corner of space where Dr. Kieran Moss had happily buried himself for the past 18 months. The barren moon orbited a gas giant on the edge of explored space, its only claim to fame being the ruins of a civilization that had vanished 50,000 years ago. For most people, this desolation would be maddening. For Kieran, it was paradise. "Anything on the scanner, Doc?" called Mason, one of the security personnel assigned to the dig. The man's voice echoed through the cavernous underground chamber, bouncing off intricately carved walls covered in swirling mathematical patterns that had defied translation. Kieran adjusted his spectral analyzer, wiping dust from his brow. Nothing new, just the usual elemental signatures. At 34, he embodied the stereotype of the brilliant but socially awkward scientist, more comfortable with ancient alien mysteries than human interaction. His lanky frame and perpetually disheveled dark hair added to the impression of someone who existed primarily in his own mind. 3 more hours of methodical scanning yielded nothing of significance. The team was preparing to ascend when Kieran's instrument detected an anomalous energy signature emanating from behind what appeared to be a solid wall. "Wait," he called, moving closer to examine the stonework. "There's something here." Mason sighed. "Doc, we've swept this chamber 6 times. Command wants us back before the solar storm." "Just 5 minutes," Kieran insisted, running his fingers along the intricate patterns. Something about their arrangement had always bothered him. The mathematical progression seemed incomplete, like a sentence missing its final word. A barely perceptible depression caught his attention. Following instinct, he pressed it, triggering a mechanism that hadn't moved in millennia. With a sound like ancient bones breaking, a section of wall receded, revealing a small vault hewn from some material that defied the scanner's classification. Inside, suspended in a field of soft blue light, floated a teardrop-shaped object no larger than Kieran's palm. Its surface shimmered with an iridescence that seemed to shift between states of matter, sometimes appearing liquid, sometimes crystalline. "What the hell is that?" Mason whispered, training his weapon on the object. "It's a Laren," Kieran breathed, excitement overriding caution. "But unlike anything we've cataloged, the energy signature is active." Before Mason could stop him, Kieran reached out. The moment his fingertips made contact with the artifact, the blue light pulsed, enveloping his hand. Pain lanced up his arm as the object seemed to liquefy, partially absorbing into his skin before reforming in his palm, now glowing with a different rhythm that somehow matched his heartbeat. "Moss," Mason shouted, pulling him back. Kieran stared in fascination as intricate, luminescent patterns briefly appeared beneath his skin, tracing his veins like bioluminescent tattoos before fading from view. The artifact dimmed to a soft glow, now feeling warm and oddly familiar in his hand. "I'm fine," he assured Mason, though his voice shook slightly. "It's some kind of biointerface technology. The Alaren were theorized to have merged biological and technological systems." The security officer keyed his comm. "Command, we need a containment unit and medical team at excavation site. See, Dr. Moss has made contact with an unknown artifact." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of medical scans, debriefings, and tests. Despite the incident, Kieran felt perfectly normal, better than normal, actually. His mind seemed sharper, his senses more acute. The medical team found nothing concerning beyond slightly elevated neural activity and trace amounts of unknown nanomaterials in his bloodstream that appeared to be dormant. "We should quarantine you for observation," Dr. Abernathy, the station's chief medical officer, suggested, "but the artifact seems stable now. It's as if it recognized you." Kieran nodded, studying the object now secured in a containment field. "It was waiting," he said quietly, "all this time waiting for someone." He couldn't have known then how right he was, or how completely his life was about to change. A week after his encounter with the artifact, Kieran sat in the station's observation deck, watching the gas giant's swirling surface cast prismatic light across the barren landscape of Titan 9. The relic, now secured in his quarters after extensive testing revealed it to be harmless, had become his constant companion. No one else could touch it without experiencing a painful shock, yet in his hands it hummed with gentle warmth. "Dr. Moss," Commander Valencia's voice broke through his reverie as she appeared at the doorway. "There's a situation. We have visitors requesting you specifically." Kieran frowned. Visitors here were 16 light-years from the nearest outpost. "They arrived an hour ago, 3 ships from 3 different species." The commander's expression was unreadable. "They're waiting in conference room A." Curiosity overrode his usual aversion to unexpected social interaction as Kieran followed Valencia through the station's sterile corridors. When the doors to the conference room slid open, he froze. 3 female aliens stood around the table, each strikingly different yet sharing an air of authority. One had sleek silvery skin that reflected light like polished metal, her eyes large and entirely black. Another possessed an exoskeleton of deep purple carapace, elegant mandibles framing what approximated a face. The third appeared almost human, save for her golden skin and the delicate, translucent fins extending from her forearms and neck. Dr. Kieran Moss, the human-like female, stepped forward, her voice musical and layered with harmonics. I am Empress Ixora of the Thasa Collective. These are Ambassador Telva of the Vesperi Federation and High Matriarch Dashari of the Selenara Empire. How do you know my names? Kieran asked, pulse quickening. And why are you here? Telva, the silver-skinned alien, approached with fluid grace. We felt the activation signal. The progenitor's seed has found its bearer. She extended a six-fingered hand toward his chest, stopping just short of touching him. It dwells within your genetic structure now. The artifact, Kieran realized, you know what it is. It is hope, Dashari clicked, her mandibles moving with precise movements. Our species, like many in this sector of the galaxy, face extinction due to a catastrophic decline in viable male birth rates, a genetic plague that has spread across civilizations. Empress Ixora's golden fins rippled with bioluminescent patterns. The Alaran, whom you call the ancient civilization that built these ruins, faced a similar crisis 50 millennia ago. They created a solution before they vanished, a device that could rewrite genetic codes to ensure perfect compatibility. The bearer of this seed, continued Telva, becomes what our histories call a prime seedbearer, genetically optimized to repopulate multiple species. Your DNA has been enhanced, expanded, made adaptable beyond natural evolution's constraints. Kieran's scientific mind raced ahead of his emotional reaction. That's biologically impossible, cross-species reproduction. Was impossible, Dashari interrupted, until the progenitor's science made it possible. We have tracked rumors of this artifact for centuries, following ancient maps and prophecies, and now it has chosen you. The implications hit Kieran like a physical blow. You're saying I'm compatible with your species, all of your species. Not just compatible, Empress Ixora said, stepping closer. Her scent, something like cinnamon and ozone, filled his senses. Optimal. Your genetic structure has been enhanced to produce offspring that would be stronger, more resilient than any born in generations. Kieran backed away until he hit the wall. This is insane. I'm a xenobiologist, not a savior, Telva suggested. A genesis point, the key to the continuation of multiple civilizations. Commander Valencia, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. You're saying Dr. Moss is now some kind of universal donor. Indeed, confirmed Dashari, and word will spread quickly. Already other species have detected the activation signal. They will come, offering alliances, wealth, power, or threats. Empress Ixora approached Kieran, her golden eyes searching his. We come in peace, offering cooperation and protection in exchange for your assistance. Others will not be so diplomatic. Kieran felt dizzy with the implications. He, who had always been more comfortable with ancient artifacts than living people, who could barely maintain eye contact during conversations, was suddenly the genetic salvation for multiple civilizations. I need time, he managed. Time is the one luxury our species no longer have, Ixora replied softly, but we will grant you what we can. Choose wisely, Seedbearer, the future of millions awaits your answer. 2 weeks after the initial contact, the research station had transformed into an impromptu diplomatic hub. 7 more alien delegations had arrived, each representing species facing the same genetic crisis. Kieran found himself at the center of increasingly tense negotiations, a role for which his lifetime of academic isolation had left him woefully unprepared. The Astrarian matriarchy offers you a continent on their homeworld, reported Commander Valencia during their morning briefing. The Meridian Collective proposes a genetic partnership with access to their advanced technology. Kieran rubbed his temples and the threats. The Valkyrie Dominion has positioned a warship at the edge of this system. They claim traditional rights of genetic salvation supersede diplomatic measures. Security on the station had tripled, but everyone knew it would be insufficient against a determined interstellar power. Kieran had become a resource to be claimed by negotiation or by force. His research into the artifact continued in what little privacy remained. The patterns it had embedded in his DNA were becoming more pronounced. Sometimes he awoke to find his skin traced with faintly glowing lines that mapped his genetic structure. More disturbing were the dreams, vivid, intimate encounters with females of various species that left him gasping awake, his body responding to phantom sensations. A soft chime announced a visitor. Empress Ixora entered his quarters, her golden skin shimmering under the artificial light. Of all the representatives, she had been the most respectful of his autonomy, keeping a careful distance despite the obvious tension between them. The situation deteriorates, she said without preamble. The Valkyrie have issued an ultimatum. They demand you be transferred to their vessel within 12 hours. Or what? Or they will take you by force. Her fins rippled with concern. My ship can extract you before they arrive. We can offer sanctuary. Kieran studied her. At what price? I won't be a breeding specimen, Ixora. Is that what you think we want? A note of genuine hurt colored her voice. My people face extinction, yes, but we have never practiced forced reproduction. The seed requires harmony. She stepped closer. Connection. Something in her nearness made the artifact in his pocket warm. The patterns beneath his skin pulsed faintly in response to her presence. The Alaran understood that genetic salvation without spiritual connection creates monsters, she continued. The progenitor's device does not merely make you physically compatible, it seeks resonance between minds and spirits. Is that why I dream of you? The words escaped before he could stop them. Her eyes widened, fins flaring in what he now recognized as surprise or perhaps pleasure. You dream of me. Not just you, he admitted, flushing. Others too, it's the artifact's influence. Perhaps, she acknowledged, or perhaps it merely amplifies what could naturally exist between compatible beings. She closed the distance between them close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her skin. The Valkyrie Empress will not be so patient. Her methods involve genetic extraction, no connection, no choice. The unspoken proposition hung between them. Kieran felt the artifact pulse against his skin, its rhythm matching his accelerating heartbeat. What happens if I say yes to you, to any of you? He asked. You would be honored, protected. Our species would blend, creating a new generation carrying the best of both genetic lineages. Her hand hovered near his face, not quite touching. But there must be genuine choice, Kieran. The seed responds to authentic connection, or it becomes inert. A distant alarm suddenly blared through the station. Commander Valencia's voice came over the comm. All personnel, battle stations. Valkyrie vessels have entered the system and are not responding to hails. Ixora's expression hardened. They have come early, you must decide now. What about the others, the other species? The seed is not depleted by sharing, she said. It replenishes, grows stronger with each connection. You could save many. The artifact burned hot against his skin now, the patterns beneath glowing visibly through his uniform. The choice before him seemed impossible: run, fight, or embrace a destiny he never sought. I won't be owned, he said finally. Not by you, not by the Valkyrie, not by anyone. If I do this, if I help your species, it will be as an equal, a partner, not a specimen. Ixora's fins rippled with what appeared to be relief and something deeper. As it should be, the seed chose you for your spirit as much as your genetic potential. She extended her hand. Come with me, seedbearer, there is little time. As the station's alarms continued to wail, Kieran made his choice. Ixora's ship, the Luminous Tide, spiraled through the nebula known as the Cerulean Veil, its cloaking technology rendering it virtually invisible even to advanced Valkyrie sensors. In the months since their escape from Titan IX, Kieran had adapted to life among the Thasa with surprising ease. Their bioorganic technology resonated with the changes occurring within his own body, making the ship feel almost like an extension of himself. The Valkyrie fleet has withdrawn to the outer system, reported Captain Myril, Ixora's chief military advisor. But they've left probes scanning all transit vectors. They're persistent, Kieran noted, studying the holographic map. You represent survival, Ixora replied from the room's center pool, a shallow basin of luminescent fluid where the Thasa communed with their ship systems. Few forces are more motivating. Working closely with Thasa scientists, Kieran had begun to understand the artifact's true nature. It wasn't simply altering his DNA, it was evolving it, creating a living bridge between species once biologically isolated. The process had accelerated since leaving the station, his body changing in subtle ways, heightened senses, faster healing, increased stamina. And something else, a growing empathic sensitivity to those around him, particularly Ixora. The coalition representatives will arrive tomorrow, Myril continued. Ambassadors from 6 species affected by the infertility plague, including the Selenara and Vesperi. Kieran nodded, his mind drifting to memories of the past weeks. His relationship with Ixora had evolved beyond diplomatic necessity into something neither had anticipated. Their first intimate encounter had been hesitant, exploratory, both nervous about biological incompatibilities. But the artifact had guided them, the patterns beneath his skin illuminating at her touch, showing where connections could form. The experience had been unlike anything in human conception of intimacy, a merging of neural patterns alongside physical union, consciousness brushing against consciousness. Afterward, both had lain breathless, changed in ways neither fully understood. Tests confirmed what the ancient device had promised. Viable genetic fusion had occurred. Your thoughts are far away, Ixora observed now, rising from the pool. Water slid off her golden skin as she approached. Rememberings, he admitted. Her lips curved into a smile, a pleasant memory, I hope. Before he could respond, the ship's communication system chimed. An image materialized Telva of the Vesperi, her silvery features composed but urgent. Empress Ixora, seedbearer Kieran. Forgive the unscheduled contact, but matters have accelerated. The Valkyrie have allied with the Dravashi Imperium. They are targeting all potential coalition vessels. Kieran felt a chill. The Dravashi were a militant species rumored to possess technology capable of genetic warfare. How soon can you reach the sanctuary coordinates? Ixora asked. We are en route now, but our vessel is damaged. We require escort. Telva's silver eyes fixed on Kieran. The coalition needs your presence, seedbearer, not just your genetic material, but your understanding of the artifact. Something is happening to the offspring conceived through your gift. What do you mean? Kieran asked, alarmed. They develop differently. The Selenara hatchlings show unprecedented neural patterns. They communicate telepathically with each other across species lines. Ixora and Kieran exchanged startled glances. This was unexpected, evidence that the artifact's influence extended beyond simple genetic compatibility. We will rendezvous at these coordinates, Ixora decided, sending encrypted data. Prepare your scientists to share findings. After Telva's image faded, Kieran turned to Ixora. The artifact is doing more than enabling reproduction. It's evolving the next generation. Perhaps that was always its purpose, she suggested, her fins rippling with excitement. Not just to save species on the brink of extinction, but to elevate them, to create bridges where barriers once existed. That night, alone in their quarters, Kieran studied the artifact while Ixora slept beside him. Its glow had intensified in recent days, pulsing in complex patterns that seemed almost like language. When he touched it, images flooded his mind, not just of potential mates as before, but of children. Children with human eyes and Thasa fins, children with Vesperi silver skin and human smiles, children with Selenara strength and human creativity. A vision of connection across the stars. Ixora stirred her hand, finding his in the dimness. I sense your unrest, she murmured. What happens when more discover what we represent, he asked. This could trigger interstellar war. She moved closer, her body fitting against his with now familiar perfection. Or it could forge peace unlike any known before. These children, our children, will belong to multiple worlds. They will be living bridges between civilizations. Her touch ignited the patterns beneath his skin, golden light tracing veins and nerve pathways where their bodies connected. This intimacy no longer felt alien to him, it felt like coming home. We have given our species another generation, she whispered against his neck. But the artifact has given us something far greater, a future where boundaries between us fade. In the soft glow of their entwined bodies, Kieran finally understood. He was no longer just a vessel for ancient technology. He had become the beginning of something entirely new. The Coalition Sanctuary on the hidden world of Elysium had become both refuge and research center. Representatives from 12 species affected by the fertility crisis had gathered here, united by the promise of survival that Kieran represented. In the 6 months since fleeing Titan 9, he had formed connections with delegates from 8 species, each encounter guided by the artifact's increasingly sophisticated influence. The resulting offspring, now developing in various incubation chambers adapted to their hybrid physiologies, were unlike anything xenobiologists had ever documented. They possessed unprecedented genetic stability despite their mixed heritage, and early neural scans showed signs of telepathic capabilities that transcended species barriers. The Dravashi fleet has breached the outer defense perimeter, announced Dashari, now head of security for the Coalition. Her purple carapace gleamed under the biodome's light. The Valkyrie Empress demands surrender of the seedbearer. The Coalition Council chamber erupted in protests. Kieran, seated beside Ixora at the central table, felt the weight of thousands of lives pressing on him. Over the months, his appearance had subtly transformed. His eyes now held faint gold flecks like Ixora's, while his skin sometimes shimmered with a silvery undertone reminiscent of Telva's. The artifact's influence continued to reshape him, each connection adding new dimensions to his evolving biology. We cannot surrender him, Telva declared. The future of our civilizations may not depend on reproduction alone, Kieran interrupted, rising. The artifact, now worn as a pendant against his chest, pulsed with intense light. I've discovered something in the Alaran data archives recovered from Titan 9. He activated the holographic display, showing ancient symbols that match the patterns frequently appearing on his skin. The Alaran didn't disappear, they were systematically destroyed by an engineered genetic weapon. A stunned silence fell across the chamber. The same weapon that's now causing the fertility crisis across the galaxy, he continued. The Dravashi didn't just ally with the Valkyrie recently, they've been executing a millennia-long plan of genetic warfare. They created and spread the infertility plague just as they once targeted the Alaran. "How can you know this?" demanded one of the council members. In answer, Kieran removed the artifact from around his neck. It hovered above his palm, its teardrop shape spinning faster until it projected a three-dimensional star map throughout the chamber. Red lines traced infection vectors of the plague across thousands of worlds. The artifact contains the complete genetic history of the Alaran and every species they encountered. It's been communicating with me, not just altering my DNA, but uploading information directly to my consciousness. Ixora stood beside him, her hand finding his. "What else has it shown you?" "It's not just a reproductive tool," Kieran explained. "It's a test and a key. The Alaran created it to find someone who could serve as a living repository for their genetic legacy, someone who could decode the plague and create a universal cure." He touched the hovering artifact, causing it to expand into a complex molecular structure. "This is the plague's structure. And this," the image shifted, revealing a complementary pattern, "is the cure. The artifact contains both the weapon and its antidote. The Alaran hid their salvation in plain sight, waiting for someone who would use it to heal rather than harm." "The Dravashi must know this," Dashari realized. "That's why they hunt you so desperately. If they possess both the weapon and its cure, they could control which species live or die across the galaxy," Telva added, her silver features grim. Ixora's fins rippled with concern. "What will you do?" Kieran looked around at the assembled representatives, beings he once would have considered impossibly alien, now connected to him through bonds deeper than biology. In the adjacent chambers, children of mixed heritage developed, the first generation of something entirely new in the galaxy's history. "The artifact didn't choose me because I was genetically optimal," he said quietly. "It chose me because I was a xenobiologist, someone who studies and values the diversity of life. That's what the Alaran valued above all. Not dominance but connection." He placed his hand over the artifact, which responded by projecting a new pattern, a universal genetic key that could be tailored to any species. "I won't just give you back your fertility," he declared. "I'll give you something the Alaran hoped for, a galaxy where genetic barriers can be bridges instead of walls, where diversity becomes our greatest strength." The artifact pulsed one final time before dissolving into streams of luminescent particles that flowed into Kieran's body. The patterns beneath his skin flared brilliantly before settling into a subtle, permanent shimmer. "The knowledge is part of me now," he said, "and I'm part of all of you." Ixora's fingers interlaced with his, her touch familiar and essential. "What of the Dravashi, the Valkyrie?" "We offer them the same choice the artifact offered me," Kieran replied. "Evolution or extinction, connection or isolation." As alarm signals blared announcing the approach of the hostile fleet, Kieran faced the gathered representatives of a dozen worlds, worlds whose futures were now intertwined with his own. "The Alaran left us a choice," he said, the genetic patterns across his skin forming words in a language older than any civilization present. "Now we make it together." Around them, in chambers filled with the soft glow of new life, the first children of a new era stirred, neither fully human nor fully alien, but something wonderfully hopeful new. They would be the true legacy of the artifact, living proof that salvation came not from purity but from connection. And as the coalition ships rose to meet the approaching threat, Kieran stood alongside Ixora, no longer the reluctant vessel of ancient technology, but the willing architect of a future where the boundaries between species, like the boundaries between stars, existed only to be bridged.